and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence.
Trump just got a timeout from Kamala Harris, and it wasn't pretty. In their recent debate, Harris didn't just win, she sent Trump back to political preschool. Stick around as we unpack how the former president got his lunch money taken on national TV. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. However, Trump struggles with test taking, particularly in situations where Kamala is the instructor. How did Hillary put up this devious trap that left Trump scrambling like a child who had forgotten his homework? The response may leave you wondering if he made it out of kindergarten at all. Kamala Harris brought a lesson plan to the debate that would have made a kindergarten teacher pleased. She transitioned between subjects with ease, even posing short pop quizzes for Trump as she went. As Trump sat there looking like the child who ate too much paste, it was like watching a master educator at work. Kamala stood tall and self-assured, but Trump was unable to remain motionless. More than a 5-year-old who truly needs to urinate but doesn't want to skip recess, he was squirming. He was practically wondering, when's snack time?
Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Here, though, was when Kamala's brilliance truly showed. Trump bit her when she hung flashy stuff in front of him. She used bait to get him to talk about unrelated topics to the discussion itself. Numbers of people in a crowd, his bequest. It seems as though she was aware of just which triggers to set Trump off on a tangent. She laid out trap after trap after trap. He walked into every single one like laughing and screaming. That's what the pros advise people. It seemed as though Kamala constructed a political obstacle course, and Trump fell flat at each one. Trump was presumably drawing small images of himself on Trump Tower, while Kamala was writing on the whiteboard of significant topics. She was ready to talk about policy, and he was ready for, well, who knew what he was ready for? Not in any way a debate. The worst part, though, is that Kamala's teacher methods accomplished more than simply making Trump appear foolish, though that was a benefit. Folks, she was thinking ahead. By maintaining her composure, she demonstrated to voters who were still unsure what a true leader looked like. Accompanying these supporters, Trump's playground antics likely made them wonder if they had unintentionally switched to an episode of Kids Say the Darndest Things Presidential Edition. And not only did Kamala prevail in the debate, but she also corrected Trump in front of the entire nation. She demonstrated that on occasion, treating a political bully like the adult child they are might be the most effective way to deal with them. If you give them enough rope, they will go to great lengths to demonstrate that they are the greatest president of all time. And he nodded himself up. What contentious issue was causing Trump to wriggle like a child who accidentally put his hand in the cookie jar? You may wonder if he even knows what presidential implies based on his response. Trump's immigration statement was as logical as a kid trying to explain quantum physics. He went off on an odd digression about how immigrants are said to consume pets. Yes, what you just read is true. It seemed as though he was engaging in a lighthearted game of pin the tail on the imaginary immigrant threat as Kamala attempted to have a meaningful policy conversation. It's not even the greatest part, though. Imagine this. Trump avoided eye contact, hunching over as if to conceal from the teacher that he failed the arithmetic test. It was well put by one expert when they said he looked like a kid trying to hide a bad report card from his parents.
And what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up?
Hurt. It appears that somebody has been sent to the principal's office. And now, shall we discuss Trump's approach to debates? As Kamala outlined specific policy ideas, Trump was occupied with his game of dodge the question and blame the Democrat. He seemed to have forgotten that this was a real presidential debate rather than just a tag game on the playground. I mean, who would have thought politics could be so hard? The worst part is that Trump isn't the only one who finds this kindergarten conduct embarrassing. He might pay a heavy price for it in terms of undecided voters. These people tuned in expecting to hear some substantive responses on significant matters. Rather, they witnessed the political equivalent of a school lunch brawl. Voters in swing states in particular were left perplexed. They expected substance, and they get nothing but Trump's diatribes and word salad. It's similar to ordering a pile of cold SpaghettiOs and receiving a steak instead. Not particularly enticing to individuals who are still undecided about their candidate of choice. It was almost impressive in a wow, I can't believe he's actually doing this type of manner. How Trump could not remain on subject. Before Kamala could say fake news, Trump would detour off into La La Land every time she attempted to bring the subject back to policy. It's as though discussing real problems triggers some kind of allergic reaction in him. Not to be overlooked is Trump's nonverbal cues. Trump's body was screaming, "Get me out of here," louder than a child pleading to leave the dentist's office. If actions speak louder than words, shifting eyeballs, hunched shoulders, the whole package. He seemed to be making an effort to physically retreat from Kamala's inquiries. Hold on to your juice boxes, kids, if you thought Trump's debate performance was just embarrassing. As the political playground became more chaotic, Trump appeared to lose sight of the objective. Trump was out in La La World, presumably believing he was the king of the monkey bars, while Kamala was busy adulting. Shall we dissect Trump's debate approach? Imagine this. Kamala is laying out policy points like a pro in her 4D chess game. Trump, in the meantime, he's playing duck, duck, goose with the facts over there. Whenever Kamala attempted to get him to agree on anything, he would waddle off and quack about something quite irrelevant. It seems as though he was determined to avoid being discovered and saw the conversation as just one huge game of tag. The true showstopper, though, the conversation on January 6th, Trump really messed up on that one. It reminded me of a child playing political twister. Right hand on not my fault, left foot on totally my idea. He attempted to claim responsibility for the rally while simultaneously distancing himself from the entire situation. I mean, how knotted up are you? It seems as though he overlooked the fundamental principle of kindergarten education. Form an opinion before speaking. Alright, how about we discuss star power now? It turns out that being friends with Taylor Swift doesn't guarantee that you'll be the coolest kid in school. Unexpectedly, not all of the Swifties became political gurus overnight, despite the fact that Tay-Tay's support for Kamala thrilled them. It almost seems like, wait for it, endorsements by famous people don't always result in votes. Who was aware? But this is when the intriguing part starts.
And that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe.
Kamala was making point after point with the folks who genuinely cared about, governing the country, while Trump was occupied with playing invisible hopscotch with the truth. She didn't even break a sweat, coming prepared, staying focused, and making Trump appear like the unprepared class clown. It's as though Trump brought his pet rock to show and tell, and she brought a PowerPoint presentation. It felt as if we were witnessing two distinct conversations due to the extreme disparity. Kamala was one side of the room, cool as a cucumber, outlining policy plans like she was breaking down tetherball rules. Conversely, there stood Trump, seeming agitated and flushed, as though he had just been exposed for using a phony spelling test. Voters in the dark must have been scratching their heads, wondering whether they had accidentally switched from a presidential debate to some weird political reality show. Not to be overlooked is Trump's nonverbal cues. Trump's body was screaming, "Get me out of here," louder than a child pleading to leave the dentist's office. If actions speak louder than words, shifting eyeballs, hunched shoulders, the whole package. He seemed to be making an effort to physically retreat from Kamala's inquiries. Perhaps he reasoned that if he shrunk down enough, she wouldn't see him and ask him to respond.